This concludes our film program. Those who like, we have more coffee and cookies available. And myself, one librarian, and Brian Dar from ATA are going to stick around for a while and facilitate a conversation if you'd like to talk about the film. Has anyone seen this film before? Yes, some of you have? Yes.
I might have seen this back when I was still in City College, though.
Possible.
Yeah.
So we showed some of the people involved taught at City College in San Francisco. And this copy of the print cover comes from public library.
One thing that might be worth mentioning is that the artist Troy has, since 1983, when this film was first released, he's added a postscript to the DVD version, the digital versions of the film, where he talks a little bit about what's happened to the site since 1983. We saw the title card saying that it had been 6 years since the eviction and 4 years since the demolition. I can't remember exactly the numbers, but I know that it went unoccupied, kind of an empty pit in the block for another 10 years after this, at least.
Yeah, it was decades. There was an empty block. We at the library have some books that talk about this. This is by a Filipino author, Estela Abal, and this really looks at the politics and also goes back a little bit historically. What are the backstories of these men and the generation of Filipinos, which was part of the film. But this is an excellent book, Temple University Press. Our copy is checked out right now, but there are others at the other branches. And also I can recommend this book. It's about a year old, Building Community Chinatown Style by Gordon Chin, who founded a community development organization in the neighborhood to work for the rights of poor people in low-income housing. And there is a chapter in this book which discusses the I Hotel and also its aftermath. So as you may know, after decades of being a hole in the ground, there was an agreement with the city that whatever would be built on that block would have to include low-income housing for seniors. So in fact, a more modern version of the I Hotel was built and is there now on the corner of Jackson and Kearney. And that includes something called the Manila Town Cultural Center, which now has music events. I put flyers from the current I Hotel on the back table there. They have a comedy college, which, as you may know, the I Hotel in the basement used to have something called the Hungry Eye, where people like Woody Allen and Barbra Streisand developed comedy routines. And they also have kind of a coffee hour and various things like that. So that's actually a going concern. And City College of San Francisco has a campus on the Washington end of Kearney, where they have various classes, ESL, chemistry, dance, music, and also a library. So it is now, serving a useful community function. And if you go to the I Hotel that's on the corner now, you can see photographs of some of the people you saw in the film, and a little bit more about their story, and certain relics have been preserved and are on the wall. But yeah, that's just a little bit more if you're interested. There's a few of the original tenants who still live in the neighborhood. This is a book of poetry by some of them, including Peter Yamamoto, who was here a few months ago at another event. But there's more information there if you want to learn more about the historical side.
What are the legal challenges to...
There were many. So it was about a 10-year process of many lawsuits and counter lawsuits. Obviously, all of the issues that were alive then still exist today. It's an increasing, ongoing problem because the real estate is so valuable being next to the financial district. And that's also been the history of Chinatown here, too.
Yeah, it really brought it all back for someone who was there at the time.
Yes.
I remember, I liked the part about Sheriff Hundisto went to his own jail for 5 years.
That was fascinating. And hearing his own voice.
You said someone who was there, you mean someone who was in San Francisco, or were you actually part of the protests as well?
I was.
You were.
I was not there the night of the eviction, but I did go to the I Hotel.
Oh, thanks for sharing.
Well, I went to a lot of potluck dinners they had and walked through it and met people. It was an interesting time.
Thank you so much. This is the third time we've shown this print to a public audience, and there always seems to be somebody who comes. They may have not seen the film before, but they at least had some connection. They were at the protest at one sort or another, or they knew somebody who was displaced, or
I think the first time it was one of the medics
that's right.
was in the audience. She was the one that mentioned the poetry activity, which that book comes out of, which is featured in the film in the scene in the hallway where there's some poetry being read. And we didn't quite understand the importance of that scene until she mentioned that there was a lot of activity of writing poetry in the I-Hotel at the time.
There were several poets in the building, of course, also including the man who did some of the off-screen narration. One of the poets who lived in the building actually coined the term Manila Town, so it's kind of interesting.
I just wanted to say that this is the most people have seen of this showing, Saturday showing,
Yes.
for many, many months. And I think the reason for that is what you said. They're feeling the same kind of pressures now.
I was struck by the fact that, well, at least it seemed, that after 10 years of back and forth and all this, the night of the eviction, the tenants seemed to be totally unprepared.
It was late at night, I think after
And
midnight.
they were not told it was going to, they were coming that day, there were no
No one
notices
knew
posted, we're
when,
coming
no one
that
knew
day.
when it was going to happen, and it caught a lot of people by surprise. Maybe not surprisingly, it did happen later.
You know, the city shut down the off-ramps from the Bay Bridge. For people were coming from Oakland and Berkeley and by the hundreds, and they shut down the off-ramps so you couldn't get into the city.
Just that day,
That night.
that day and night, that night. Thank you.
Highway Patrol did.
I have not seen any of the first two films, Chinatown Portrait of the Community or Sewing Woman, those are good. Do you want to say anything about those films?
I don't know. Does anyone have any comments or questions about it?
Yeah.
I've seen the sewing one. I haven't seen the other one. I thought they all went well. But you were saying, so there's a new building
Yes,
where the old one was?
that's correct, on the
And
corner.
that's what we were talking about. And then he was talking, you didn't finish your time about this DVD that has the post.
Right, well,
How long is that and how is
it's
that?
about a minute and a half or
Okay.
something. It's not.
It's footage.
But it's just up, it's like a title screen with some image, kind of showing you what it looked like later on. But it's worth seeing. If you want to see that footage, you can go to the public library's 6th floor history center, where they do have a DVD copy of this film available to view on site at any time at the history center on the 6th floor there.
But there's no longer like a sequel.
Not like a full film.
This one.
No, not that I'm aware of. Yeah, he may have made like a separate follow-up film, but if so, it hasn't gotten much play.
Then the other thing was this person Al Robles, who
Yes.
is the narrator. He's a
Yes.
poet, I think. Does anybody know
It's
anything
his
about him? at all?
son, Tony Robles.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So this is,
Poet and activist, that's his father.
and then his father was,
Also an activist.
okay, was he poet laureate? Somewhere, poet?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know Al Robles' history.
Okay, that's it. And then the other thing, last thing is, a question for, I guess, the whole audience, in line with this gentleman just said, how much have things changed? Or have they changed?
What do you think? We have a president who's a real estate developer.
Yeah.
And how is it going to happen?
Well, that is interesting. I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. One is that, you know, it's a scandal, and this author, Stella Abal, talks about that period. There were many such tenant real estate confrontations, and the vast majority of the tenants lost. There was another one in San Francisco having to do with the Yerba Buena redevelopment thing, and some of the people were able to win housing. This book, Building Community, what you also saw in that film were so many other groups involved, different unions, different student organizations getting involved. So in a sense, that was a massive and unprecedented since the 1934 general strike, having so many sectors of the public involved in protesting the eviction, but also in sort of advocating for low-income housing. So some good did come out of this. There was a renewed focus to find, both to preserve existing housing, other housing in other neighborhoods like the Tenderloin, Russian Hill, some of the neighborhoods that border Chinatown. Some of that housing was saved in part because this was such a catastrophe and such, it was international news, this kind of thing.
I think the California Hotel over in Oakland is sort of the converse of this story. It's where
I don't know the story.
well, Cal Hotel has been seismically retrofitted and remodeled, and it's got tenants in there, and a lot of them, maybe not the same ones, but I mean, so it's a little bit different than what happened.
It did actually get the city interested in partnership solutions for the future,
Right.
because Moscone's proposal failed or was ruled illegal by the courts. This idea of using eminent domain to buy the site and then sell it, but at a price, right, to give the owner in Thailand a profit. That didn't work, but then there were ways of funneling city money into these partnerships, like in the Tenderloin, for example. So that, forced at least the local government to think more long-term. Also, Ed V., our current mayor, was the lawyer representing the tenants with the Asian Law Caucus. And part of the settlement with the current buildings that are on that block is they have an office there. They still exist, so that's what launched Ed V's political career, being a young lawyer out of Stanford, representing. So he knows about the housing issues, whether or not he's fully responsive to this neighborhood and others remains to be seen.
It's the 40th anniversary.
It is exactly the 40th anniversary, that's right, August '77.
I think it would be worth mentioning that there was another screening of the filmmaker's personal print of this film about 3 weeks ago at the
International Hotel?
the current Chinatown Heritage Center. And in the week up to that, there was an interview that the filmmaker Curtis Choi gave to local writer and activist Emil. No, not Guzman. I think it's Guillermo. Emil Guillermo, and it's on YouTube. You can find this. It hasn't gotten a lot of views, but he talks a lot about the making of the film. One of the things he says that kind of answers some of the questions that have, or at least provides an answer for some of the questions that have come up already in this discussion, is he says in that interview that he felt that it would have been possible for the eviction that night to have been postponed, except that a lot of the residents, if not all of the residents at the time, by that point they kind of decided they did not want to force all of these protesters that were to come out and force them to actually put themselves in too much danger. And so they actually asked them to let the police come through at one point during the protest that night. That's what the director said a couple weeks ago. So I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it sounds like it's a likely possibility. Yes.
Yeah, that was true.
Yeah.
They kind of cut a deal that because there was a lot of fear that the police would use tear gas and they would really come in like gangbusters, and the elderly people would be hurt. There might be fires started from gas and that sort of thing. So they did kind of let them come in. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your.
One possible answer, or I don't know, some of the questions, I guess, what's missing from this film, occurred to me, the lawyer. Who was their lawyers, like you said, Lee was, I don't see that perspective, and where were the lawyers when all this went down? I mean, that would be a key ingredient, I think they must have lawyers, that's one thing I know. That's one out of it.
films, and I hope, in other films, but it'll be hard to get footage like this because most of those tenants are deceased. Though they were granted the right to return, some of them were. But I asked someone at Manila Town Cultural Center, or had it found out, did anyone return? He said, of course not. There were 79 at the time, 30 years later.
How many years was it?
Close to 30. Well, it's 40 now.
Well,
But it's about
It was about
15 years
25
ago.
years.
When
When they finally opened up the new.
Yeah.
It's been about 10 years.
Did you mention that City College is
plus you see,
On the same block, they have, on the same block.
plus you see Filipino businesses on Daly City, South San Francisco, and most of the Bay Area instead of here, which I can understand that Manila Town would have been part of a Chinatown anyways if it hadn't been for this this whole renewal process that drives elderly people crazy.
There were a lot of people, I understand, who moved to south of Market, Yerba Buena district, and just in the last few years, some of the same wounds have been reopened because of the desire for the Chronicle to build a huge tower in kind of in the heart of what has become a sort of second Manila town here in San Francisco. Yeah, around Fifth Street. Yeah, I don't know too much about the whole situation, but that's not that good.
I just wanted to say we should give a round of applause for the Filipino Center at the new library. And also a thank to our colleagues from Artist Television Access, Brian Darr, projectionists, and Mark, who spent hours setting this up, bringing their own projection equipment and doing all the research into the film. And we continue to have a partnership at different branches with Artist Television Access.
September
They have
12th.
their own website also, which is definiteatasite.org. Check it out.
September 12th, we have a screening at the Noe Valley branch on a Tuesday.
And what is the screening?
It's a Connie Fields film about, it's called The Life and Times of Rosie the Riveter, about women working in World War II, and the whole origins and the fall of that kind of era in 20th century history, told by women who actually were there.
Are you going to show any other films or other shorts?
It's possible we'll add something short, but it's about an hour long. Thank you, everyone.
Man, look at that thing spin. Spin, 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 spin around the machine. Yay.
About ready to give up. Friday, November.
Alright. I'll enter this one spinning, so.
Oh, very good.